here's Lee's engine sheds. It's a little bit bare today, there's not many engines in, but what I'm going to concentrate on is the terraced houses here on Station Street. As you can see, they're more or less completed now. There's Ashes Lane, and we work our way along to the end, and at the end of Station Street we've got Bridge Street going up there. Now you'll notice there's one thing missing off this street. May not be obvious at first, but there's no street lamps. So I'm going to rectify that, and I'm going to attempt to make some from scratch. Well, let's see how it goes. I'm going to base my model on this particular lamp here. It's a gas lamp, and you'll notice the man is up there obviously doing some maintenance on it. So if you look at the size of this man here, right, we've got to consider he's probably 5'9", let's say average, let's say 6 foot. So in relationship to that, 12 foot to the top of that should be about right, and we're working on 4mm to a foot, therefore 12 foot will be 48mm. Now I take a steel rule and I measure this. Let's take a look. That reads about 140mm. So I need to find a scale now. So if I can scale that up somewhat, I'm just going to slide this little slider along, and let's see if we can get a good view of this. I really want that to be some sort of relationship that can give me 12 foot. So if I look on that now, if I get 180mm, that's too big. So I'm going to scale it down a little bit more. Take it down a little bit. Okay, so from the bottom there to the top, that's not bad. That's actually 180mm to the top of the finial actually. So what I'm going to do is use that scale now. So I'm going to say that this part of the lamp is 30mm. Right, remember this is 1.5 times. 180mm is 12 feet, so it's 1.5. So 30mm for that, and then I can proportion the rest of the lamp to suit. I'm going to do some rough calculations now. So double O gauge is 4mm to a foot. So if my lamp is 12 foot tall, then it's got to be 48mm high. And 30mm is the size I measured this off the actual drawing. So I've now got to get a man in proportion. So let's make this man here with his long coat on, and don't forget his flat cap. Got to have his flat cap on there, and his legs come down here. So that's about half of the height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a stick like this, and I'm going to use a pole like this, and the man is a double O gauge man. Sounds like one of Jethro's double O spies, but he's not really a double O spy. What does he call him? A double naught spy. So what I'm going to do here now is get some proportion. Okay, my little man's fallen over, so I'm going to get my little man standing up again. Let's have him looking the right way, and he's going to be stood at the side of the lamppost. That looks in a good proportion for the lamppost. So he measures about 20mm, which is about half of the height that I want. So I said 12 foot is going to be 48mm. It's going to be about this high. So that's the top of the, that's going to be the top of the lamp, which is about right in proportion using those scales off the photo. So that's what I'm going to work with. Now the hard bit for the non-mathematicians. So on my drawing here now, I've made it 180 millimeters, and that represents 12 feet. So each foot then is going to be 15 millimeters, isn't it? 12 into 180. So 1 foot on my drawing equals 15 millimeters. Therefore, the height of this here, 30 millimeters for this part, that's going to represent 2 feet in actual size. It's full scale, right? But so I'm doing a scale of 4 millimeters to a foot. Right, so if I'm using 4 millimeters to a foot, then 2 foot is going to equal 8 millimeters. Therefore, I make this distance here, when I build it, is actually going to be 8 mil, and that'll represent the 2 feet. So I've got to convert my scale, because it's easier to work that way. I'm going to convert that, and I'm going to make the actual measurement. So that's that. I can worry about the length of the gas lamp itself later. So at least I've got that now. So I know that that is going to be 8 millimeters tall. So I'm going to work on that as my scale now. I also need to get the full geometry of this lamp top sorted out. So I need to measure this distance here, which is 18 millimeters. And at the bottom it measures 10 millimeters. So I'll transfer that onto my drawing. So this here is 18 mil, and this bit at the bottom is 10 mil. Now when I scale that up, I'm going to make that to the same proportions as the other. So I'll work that out later. I've completed the maths now. So if 30 millimeters represents 8, I've divided 30 by 3.5, which gives me roughly 8. So if I divide 18 by 3.5, it gives me 5 mil. And if I divide 10 by 3.5, it gives me 2.9 mil. So those are going to be the actual sizes of the pane. So this will be the actual size of the 4 sides of the actual lamp housing itself. So at least that's sorted out now, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that at a later date. They then followed a very rough sketch on a bit of cardboard, and then I cut that out. So this is what I've got now that I've cut it out. I'm afraid it looks a little bit like a transfer for a Luftwaffe aeroplane, doesn't it? But it's not meant to be that. What I've got to do now is to fold all these little sides up to make it right. It's too tiny to show you how to do it. So what I'll do, I will do it, and I'll show you what it looks like after. Well, this is how it turned out. So I'm quite happy with that, really. I've just got to make the decision now as to how I'm going to fill this in. So maybe I should just paint these edges black, and then perhaps stick on some acetate so it looks like glass, or alternatively I could cut out, but it's going to be very difficult, the shape that's parallel with the edges and just leave it a frame and then stick it in. But I think that's going to be too much to work. I'm going to have to experiment a little bit with this, and then I'll make a decision as to the best way forward. Remember, I've got to mass produce these, so I'm making probably about 6 or 8. So I want to make something that's going to be realistic and easy to do. The next step was to draw out a development of 4 sides of the lamp top. I then cut out this development, clearly showing the fold lines. The next job was to transfer it onto some acetate sheet. I stuck it onto the piece of acetate sheet so I could cut it out accurately. This now gives me a transparent lamp top which looks like glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that together now, and then I'm going to just paint a little black line around each edge to make it look like metal, and I've now got a transparent glass looking lamp top. Then I've got to put the top and the bottom onto these, so I think this is going to work. The next thing I did was to take a little bit of sellotape and tape it together, so you can see now that that is more or less in its right shape. Next I've got to just drop a little tiny bit of glue in the middle and then hope that it sticks okay to the paper, which I'm going to cut off later. Okay, here goes nothing. This is where I'm going to try and drop a little dollop of glue in the bottom. Oh, it's stuck to the side. Never mind. Oh, that's stuck to the side too. Right, okay. What I'm going to do, you know what? I made a mess of that. I'm just going to wash that and start again. Okay, I managed to wash all the stuff off the inside of that glass, we'll call it. And what I'm going to do now is to drop a blob of glue down there. This is plan B now. And even so, that's a little bit on the too thick side. So I'm going to just thin it out a little bit. And then I'm going to stick that down there now. And hopefully, when that's set, it's going to hold together okay. So the next job is now to wait until that's set. I've now got the piece stuck on and dried. So what I'm about to do now is to cut out around the bottom edge. One, two, three. Still got a bit of sellotape on there. And 4. So now there's my little lamp now. What I'm going to do is to do the same and turn it over, and what I will do is I will now glue it this way around. So I've got a top on it. I'm going to have to cut some of this off first. Let's get it cut off so it can sit level. There we go. Now if I get my piece of paper again, what I'm going to do is the same as before. I'm going to stick a blob of glue there. In fact, I can do it now if you like. Stick some glue there and stick it on. Now I'm going to let that set. Well, that piece seems to have glued in all right. Now it comes time to cut it out again. I'm going to leave this a little bit past the actual size I want, because I've got to put a finial on top of this. And hopefully I should be able to cut the sellotape off now as well. So I'll take these 3 sides off first. And remember, this is sticking out a little bit. Just try and remove that sellotape now, and it should hold together. Oh, I've broken it. Stuck on too much. Oh, flipping heck, as they say in the trade. Well, that's another disaster, isn't it? See that? Oops, come back. So after having the top and bottom all stuck on, I've ended up now back at square one with my original piece, which I'm going to have to tape back together again and glue it up again. I'll try it on cardboard this time.